So if you're just joining us,
we're embarking on an interesting topic.
We're in the middle of a conversation with Jeff Thompson, Beth Gustin, Robin Ennis.
Oh yeah, Wellness Wednesday with Beth and Robin. Gonna settle it down. Oh yeah, get your feet planted on the ground. Wellness Wednesday.
Here's my audience, help me make sure that it's targeted for this audience, or here's my idea, but I'd like to expand on this some more. What are some directions I can go with this?
That's how I like to use it. It's a tool. It's not a dependency.
It's like, where is that information going? And if I don't use that, then how would I be able to have that level of autonomy? Beth, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Sorry, I'm like, welcome back to Wellness Friday. No. Welcome back to Wellness Wednesday. My name is Beth Gustin, a licensed professional counselor here in Colorado, with my co-host Robin Ennis, a licensed clinical social worker also in Colorado. And we are also very fortunate today to have the amazing Jeff Thompson, who's usually behind the scenes doing all the hard stuff that we don't have to do, like editing and posting. Jeff Thompson.
Yeah.
And we thought we would talk today, yay, about AI again. We've discussed this topic before, but it's been a while. And I think as AI becomes more and more prominent in our everyday lives, there are technologies we with vision loss and total blindness can use that make our world much more rich and help us become much more independent. And there's also a downside to AI. And so we thought we'd talk about the good, the bad, and the, oh God, of AI.
Yeah. And like everything, I feel like it always needs to be a balance. And I really like AI, and I use it, like Beth, when we were talking earlier, is that you said you use it for brainstorming. And that's what I do too. It is a great tool, but you have to be careful on how you use it and how much you use it. If you think about it in the past, even when Google.com came about in, 2000? Just think about that was just 25 years ago, and how much technology has evolved since then. And a lot of the things that exist now were like, oh, that'll never happen. Or, it was just really such a concept that we couldn't fathom. And look where we are now. So I'm glad we're talking about this more.
Yeah, like you mentioned about Google, it was amazing that you could find something that just search for it and it would give you some answers, but the answers came in a volume of about 4,000, 5,000 responses. And it seems like the top ones were always paid by an advertisement. So it's like, of course, they're going to surface to the top quicker. Now with like ChatGPT, say if I put something in there, it's not just going to be a sentence. It's going to be kind of a direction. I'll frame it. I'll go full circle with it. I'll give it so much information that it probably won't hallucinate, or I kind of direct it how I want it, what I want, and really put up some parameters for it. And it will go through and come up with something that, like you said, brainstorming. It'll give me some more ideas about it, more thoughts. Or if I put something already into it, I'll see what it changed and why it changed it. And I learned some new words or some new twists, how to construct a sentence and stuff. So brainstorming was a good one there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can ask it to kind of like, here's my thinking around this topic. What am I missing? Or here's my audience. Help me make sure that it's targeted for this audience, or here's my idea, but I'd like to expand on this some more. What are some directions I can go with this? And so I think a lot of it is about wording and what you put into it. I'm also thinking about, because you can talk back and forth verbally with ChatGPT as an example, and it will answer back, and it sounds very conversational. And so I think for people who are more lonely or isolated or don't have a wide social circle, this can bring a lot of comfort to people. Mm-hmm. I think there's a risk, though, that if you ever saw the movie Her, it came out a long time ago, but it was basically about this guy who fell in love with his AI. And there's more to it than that, but that's the very short synopsis of that. But I could see how that could happen, because if we don't have a lot of human interaction and we're talking to our AI personalities out there, they can bring a great sense of comfort, but they also can, I think, be too... We can rely on them as being too human, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, and you mentioned the word too, right? So that's what I mean when I was saying earlier that everything, there always needs to be a balance. And so, Beth, listening to you talk, so years ago when I was experiencing grief, I was looking up different ways to cope. And one thing that came up on Google was how to be able to, and this was kind of like AI, where you could input messages to where it kind of infiltrated your loved one that was deceased. And it got me thinking, like I would feel that could be comforting, but then that could also to be make you feel stuck, right, in a place, because how does it enable you to move forward if it gives such real responses, like you mentioned, Beth, like human-like responses that way? Because we do have to remember that it's computer, it's not human per se.
Mm-hmm.
I love the dual process model of grief, which is we oscillate between loss orientation and then, restoration, basically, where we spend time grieving, intentionally grieving, and allowing ourselves to be in our grief and connect in healthy ways to our deceased loved ones. And then we work on restoration of moving forward, rebuilding our purpose, finding ourselves again, finding our identity. And so I think there's a place for what you just described, Robin, but I also thought that can be very dangerous, because if we are early in our grief process or we have a complicated grief journey, that could definitely keep us stuck and not allow us to do the, I think, necessary grief process that we need to go through so we can move from acknowledging the reality this person is gone to having a continuing bond with them, but moving forward and having a full life post that death.
Right. Right.
In a interesting way, when you said regaining your identity, now that someone's gone and stuff like that, I think if you use ChatGPT long enough, it will have an identity for you. I do woodworking, and sometimes I'll ask a question. If you take 4 cuts out of this and then the remainder use it for this, it gives me sometimes it's off track a little bit and I correct it, and we get to a point where I got a good idea of how I'm going to do it. But 3 weeks later, I'm talking about something that's in the yard or in the house or something, and says, well, with your woodworking skills, you're probably a good DIY for this, So it's remembering, it's taking note of the stuff that's in the past, your history and all that. What I suggest to people is think about what you're telling it. Think about what you're identifying, how you're identifying yourself. I wouldn't put too many of your personal bills, information. Like you said, we use it for brainstorming. I use it for thoughts, ideas, taking a paragraph I wrote for show notes and see what it does to change it. And I grab from it. I use it that way. And that's majority of it. Or which plants should I plant in Minnesota with the season, and make me a list. Since I use a screen reader, don't put it in a table. And just give it to me in good Word document format. And now it remembers to do that all the time. Wow. Because it knows I'm using a screen reader. So I can take a list up there 1 through 10 that isn't a table list. It just reads by swiping line by line. So that's how I like to use it. It's a tool. It's not a dependency.
Yeah, I've told it that I'm blind, and I've asked it for no tables, no pictures. I like books and YouTube links for further exploration. So I've and it remembers that, which is creepy and helpful.
That is. So I have 2 questions. Not 2 questions, 1 statement and 1 question. Jeff, listening to you, it made me think of what my professor had said, and I wholeheartedly admit I didn't consider this. Is that he mentioned, because I'm in the last stretch of my doctorate program, and he had mentioned, be careful on what you put into AI in regards to your capstone project, because you don't want it to be stuck out there and somebody else get your idea. Yep. And so when you're brainstorming, be mindful of that. But this got me thinking, because with seeing AI and Be My Eyes, just to name a few, as a blind person, that's how I use those apps to read my mail, right? And Jeff, you mentioned specifically about bills and things like that. And it's like, where is that information going? And if I don't use that, then how would I be able to have that level of autonomy and independence when reading my mail that way? So I'm curious about what you both think.
I'm fortunate that I have a sighted person that I can ask for that. But if I didn't, I think, this is not the cheapest option, but I would use Ira and have them turn off the recording. Because I think that's the safest way that I'm aware of to do that. because I don't want my bank stuff being out there. I don't want my health information being out there. I don't want my results of blood work being out there.
Right.
Mhm.
And yet, how do we, as a blind or low vision community, access that information without using AI? And I'm sorry, but you say it's not stored. I don't believe that. It's got to go somewhere to then get interpreted back to us.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's just like anytime you signed up for something, an email, even though you cancel that subscription, that email still exists out there because it's a commodity to some people who want information on that. And Google is a prime example of gathering information. And they were the ones complaining about ChatGPT because it was taking everything from, well, it takes stuff from everywhere. And any word, anything you send in, believe me, is being stored somewhere. It might be stored like discarded pile is over here. But sometimes I think kind of neat to see what's been discarded. Just like if you ever go by a garage sale the day after and there's a bunch of stuff sitting out on the curb, people are going to look at it. But, you know, you kind of said that that stuff's just garbage, it's going away. But it didn't go away. People are picking at it, you know, now that it's free. So is the information you put out there. So I don't know how
That's a good analogy.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think privacy, that ship has sailed today
Yeah.
in a weird way.
Jeff, and I want you to chime in too, because you and Beth were talking about using AI in terms of navigation, right? And what things are in front of you and how sometimes that can give misinformation. So even not solely relying, if you don't know your surroundings, just always having a backup and not solely relying on that either in that way.
AI is not your cane or your guide dog.
Right.
No, I did an example of turning on my Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and there's a setting in accessibility where you can get the detail way up where it says it'll guide you towards doors or tell you if the doors to the left ajar and that type of thing, if it's open or closed, where things are for navigation, or it'll let you know about obstacles. So this being in accessibility, they definitely are gearing this towards the blind, visually impaired. So I stood behind my son's van and I was on the street and I stood there and I said, are there any obstacles in my path? And it said, no, there are no obstacles in your path. Then I asked it, is there a van in front of me? Yes, there's a van next to the curb. And I was like, huh. So then I asked it again, why didn't you see the van in my path? Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for correcting me. There is a van next to the curb, blah, blah, blah. It went on. So then I started over and I asked it, are there any obstacles in my path? No, your path is open. There are no obstacles. So it was like, okay, this ain't ready for prime time. So if I wouldn't suggest using it for anything like that. If you wanted to use it for walking mapping, you might use it walking and say, are there any restaurants ahead of me? And this is my location, something of that nature. What direction am I going? Maybe, but it's not ready. I just kind of laughed and put it away.
I think, Jeff, you highlight a good point, though, and I think that's maybe the bottom line, at least in my mind, to this conversation is AI is not going to, at least as of right now, replace a number of things in our lives, and I don't think it should.
This got me thinking, though, because going off of that, Beth and Jeff, is because all three of us talked about the robot guide dog.
Glide.
Yeah. And so that probably still has a long way to go too. And even if you do decide to utilize that, maybe having backup as a cane just in case. It's interesting.
I think, and I don't want to come across as slamming all technology. I am amazed at the advancement. I think the potential is wonderful. I guess I'm just saying, be mindful of how you use it and what you use it for. Be mindful of how reliant we get on it, because I personally like to do as much of my own thinking as possible. And I like to figure things out. And I like having a visual confirmation. I'm thinking about, traveling. I would love to wear a pair of glasses that is accurate, that says, slow down, there is a car parked across the sidewalk. My cane will hit it. My dog will tell me. But there's a part of me that likes having that visual awareness ahead of time. And that's comforting to me. There's, I think, a large part of people out there who find it very comforting to talk to something like ChatGPT as if it is a human being or a friend. And I just don't think we're there yet. I just don't think it's, like Jeff said, not ready for prime time yet.
No.
Be mindful of how you use it. Be aware. and just keep in mind that nothing is private.
Right.
My last thought on this is the best results I've ever gotten out of ChatGPT AIs is when I've done the most work in my prompts. And I'll only go 2 or 3 deep into it. As Beth said, the longer you're in this rabbit hole, the more it goes right back to the beginning, and it almost just loses track. It like crumbles. The house of cards come down. Its thought pattern is now scrambled, and it almost goes right back to the beginning, and you get nowhere.
Right.
You almost get to what you wanted to say, but that's where you take over from there. You took from it. You got the brainstorm. Now use your own skills and put it how you want it, because I found out if I go 5, 6 deep, it starts wandering a little bit and it just doesn't come back to where I liked it. So I don't like the rabbit hole part of it.
Anything else, Jeff and Beth, that you want to add?
I think that's a good place to end it. I always like to hear back from our listeners. What are your thoughts on AI? What do you use it for? Do you have concerns about it? What do you like about it? I think it's a great conversation. What's your experience? We'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah, we really do. I'm interested to hear different perspectives on how AI is used. Yeah, because we shared how we use it and how it's beneficial, and then also to the concern. We really do appreciate hearing from you.
It brings a great sense of security and independence, and I think that's good. I'm just curious. Inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds do want to know.
Until next time, take care and stay grounded.
Until next time, take care.
I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
Oh yeah, Wellness Wednesday with Beth and Robin. Gonna settle it down. Oh yeah, get your feet planted on the ground.
For more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to leave us some feedback, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
Wellness and taking care of ourselves. It's all about you and taking care of yourself. Oh yeah.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited
expectations
and the reality
of blind abilities.
and the realities of blind abilities.
abilities.